Hello and welcome to Commercial Real Estate Talk Podcast. This is episode 134, Revised Job Growth. And as you can see by this picture here, the revised job growth was in the wrong direction, and by a lot, by a record amount, the largest amount since 2009. So we're going to dig into that and then how it impacts commercial real estate. I'm going to try to do this here quickly. Thank you for tuning in and joining us, spending some time as we discuss commercial real estate on a weekly basis. We try to make commercial real estate simple. If you haven't connected with us or subscribed to the Commercial Real Estate Talk podcast or the channel on YouTube, please do. We also have these shorts where we teach commercial real estate terms, lingo, principles in a minute or less. So please help us to continue that, and we want to make commercial real estate simple and easy for whoever needs to know. Business owners, would-be realtors, seasoned veterans who just want to polish up. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It'll help us create more content. Let's jump right in because the news was all about this revised Labor Department numbers, okay? So this is from CNBC, and I could have pulled it from CNN, Fox, Reuters, wherever. I wanted to keep, is CNBC neutral? I don't know. Let's look at CNBC. Non-farm payroll growth revised down by 818,000, the Labor Department says. As part of the preliminary annual benchmark revisions to the non-farm payroll numbers, the Bureau of Labor Statistics said actual job growth was nearly 30% less than initially reported. The revisions to the total levels of negative 0.5% is the largest since 2009. So this is the largest annual revision that we've seen since the Great Recession, 2009. At the sector level, the biggest downward revision came in professional and business services, where job growth was 358,000 less than initially reported. That's the main sector to track if you are in office. If you're an office broker, if you're an office developer, if you're an office landlord, and you're wondering, why is my space still vacant? That's because 358,000 jobs that were reported created actually were not created. They just vanished into thin air. And look, I really trust that our congressmen and women are going to figure out what happened, because these numbers are reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And look, you can go to bls.gov and you can see their leadership right there. Erica McIntyre is the head of this. She's the commissioner, and she became the commissioner in January of 2024. So right in the thick of this, nominated by President Joe Biden and confirmed by the Senate in January 11, 2024. So both sides of the aisle, you're responsible, and hopefully both sides of the aisle will be talking to Dr. McIntyre, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, because this happened under her watch, because this cannot happen, and we'll explain the impact of commercial real estate and why this matters. It's not just a big deal. It's not just, okay, well, now the Fed's going to do something or not in September. Folks are making decisions, business decisions, on whether to pull the plug or to launch on real estate developments based on what the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports on jobs and jobs growth or lack of job growth. So a lot in commercial real estate rides on this. This is a big part of determining demand and forecasting real estate deals and developments, whether to buy that land and develop or to buy that office building because there's a turnaround coming because of job growth and so forth. So we'll get into that a little bit, but that's why this is a big deal, and that's why we're covering it. All right, as a part of the annual benchmark revisions, so I guess this happens on an annual basis, non-farm payroll numbers, the Bureau of Labor Statistics said job growth was 30% less than the 2.9 reported. Wall Street has been waiting for these revision numbers, with the economists expecting a sizable reduction. Now remember, every month they report on job growth or lack thereof, and then usually if it's really rosy, hey, we created 288,000 new jobs in the month of whatever, April. And then somewhere in the middle of May, in the middle of the night, a little revision is reposted and says, oh, actually it wasn't 288, it was actually 156,000. So this is taking into account those revisions that happen on a monthly basis, and now we have one massive annual revision. I would love to see the comparison of the initial post, because that's what dominates the news. That's what the stock market responds over the next few days when we say, hey, we created 300,000 jobs. Stock market takes off. Everybody feels good. You find out 2 weeks later that number gets reduced down, and there's no impact because there's no it's buried, and nobody perceives it or feels it because they initially reported a higher number. I would like to see what the initial numbers were on a monthly basis, and my guess is based on their initial postings, it's not 818,000. It's probably well over 1 million, 2 million, 5, because those things get revised on a monthly basis. But annually, I guess Labor Bureau of Statistics takes a look and makes some revisions. Now, the biggest revisions was in business services and professional services. That impacts office. 358,000 less jobs were created. Other areas, leisure and hospitality, 150,000. Think retail. Manufacturing, 115,000. In trade, 104,000. Think industrial. And look, you can drive through South Florida and see huge boxes, 50, 100,000 square foot warehouses vacant, some of them new. And so this kind of matches. So what we're seeing here, and I think the article is going to get into this, maybe, no, not this one, the next one, is that this is kind of lining up with what we're seeing on the street. So we've spent a year kind of living in a fairy tale land with these job growth numbers because it's not what we're seeing. If there's been 818,000 more jobs created the last 12 months, why are buildings still vacant? Why do people still can't find jobs? Who are these 8 million Americans that have had these jobs? Where are they? Well, they weren't. And so, again, you can come over here to the U.S. Bureau, take a look, and I've gone through most of the heads, and listen, yes, a lot of these have been in place since 2020, 2021. Make that for whatever you want, the last 4 years. But some of these directors also have been here since the days of George Bush and Obama, and some have been appointed by Trump. So, go figure. I think the bottom line is Congress needs to find out what went wrong to make sure this doesn't happen again. This happens to come a couple of months before the election. And so, look, it's bad news. It's not good news. It doesn't really help the incumbents. But if the Fed now responds by lowering interest rates due to this revision, we've had a whole year of people feeling like things were better than they actually were. And then when you find out the bad news, it's kind of given the balm of interest rate cuts. It's going to really mitigate that, and people will still feel good. So, if you're going to drop a bomb like we didn't have almost 1 million job growth, it's nice that behind that you have a pillow of rate cut. So, the impact, who knows? I don't think it's going to impact much. But let's look at the impact to commercial real estate and why this is a big deal. This is from Globe Street. What the 818,000 jobs downward revision means for CRE. This is from Globe Street. Better prospects for a rate cut, most likely, but individual sectors may have to recalibrate their strategies. Again, real estate strategies are 12, 18, 24 months behind these reports. Whoa, the economy is growing. Hey, we've got a lot of jobs growing in business and professional services. That means more office needed. Let's start building that spec suite office, especially in this region of the country. Or, hey, we've got a lot of leisure and jobs and retail jobs growing, so we need more retail. Let's start growing and building more retail centers, or let's build more warehouses because we've had a lot of job growth in that area. So you see, job growth impacts real estate, but it takes time. It takes time to buy a piece of property, whether it's land to develop or whether it's an office building to retrofit or to a retail center to renovate and bring in, or warehouses to build. It takes time to buy, go through the permit process, bring it to market. All that is driven by these employment statistics that these developers are paying attention to. I have friends who do this for a living. They provide the data. They analyze the data and provide it to Lennar and D.R. Horton and others so that they can make provisions. I mean, D.R. Horton just bought over 700 acres in Homestead, Florida, I'm sure, for residential development. I'm part of it probably because they see all these employment growth. And people getting jobs, they have more cash, they need a place to live, they need to invest and have housing. So when you have a revision that is this dramatic, there've got to be people in boardrooms saying, oh, okay, well, let's revisit our plans. Let's revisit our strategy. And there may be some who are well down the road down that strategy. Maybe they're in a contract or have closed or moving forward or broke ground on projects because of the employment numbers that were reported over the last year, which now are phantom, which we've come to find out. All right, this is the biggest downward revision since 2009. Okay, let's go. At that time, let's see here. Last year's estimate was also revised down 306,000 fewer jobs. So over the last 2 years, if my math is correct, that's 1,124,000 jobs that were wiped out. Now, last year was 306,000 fewer jobs than reported. This year happens to be an election season. Don't know if that's one reason. We need to find out why this happened so it doesn't happen again. But it more than doubled the overinflated jobs. So how did that happen? They need to get to the bottom line. There are two things to consider from the report. One is likely impact on September rate cutting, Federal Reserve's Federal Open Market Committee. The other is changes in individual categories of jobs that might impact on real estate planning by companies. Bill Adams, chief economist of Comerica Bank, pointed out that the email note, the revisions implies an average monthly job growth of around 164,000 rather than 209,000. The August 2nd, 2024 BLS jobs release claim. This makes payrolls more consistent with the household surveys uptick in unemployment over the last year. Also, the regional data or detail of the July jobs report released last Friday shows that month's downside surprise was national, not just regional, impacted by Hurricane Beryl. Still, the preliminary downward revision suggests a weaker labor landscape, helps explain the most recent findings from the New York Fed survey that consumers are worried about job security and the ability to find new jobs, wrote LPL Financial Chief Global Strategist Quincy Crosby in one email note. He also explained that the earning warnings from big retailers that consumers have become increasingly careful and discerning, seeking value in their purchases. All right, so again, the biggest overinflation was in the professional business services. That's the office sector. What I like about this article, it highlights the fact that commercial real estate depends on these labor stats. Real estate planning takes a long time. Like as I said, months or years in advance. They're making decisions based on these numbers. And we now found out that the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers are not reliable. That 818,000 is a huge number, a huge drop. And what the article also points out is that these numbers, the fact that we had 1 million less job growth, kind of match more what people are feeling on the street. We all know folks who graduated college and who are still looking for jobs, and the only jobs that they can find are part-time jobs. Well, of the jobs created, how many of those were full-time versus part-time? My suspicion is a lot of those are part-time. And maybe some folks have just given up the job market for now and are just collecting unemployment. I don't know. There's more details to this. But 350-something thousand fewer jobs in professional services, business service, means less demand for office. And if you haven't watched our short yet on the number one reason office rental rates rise or fall, click the link at the end here. We'll link that video to this podcast because you need to be informed. You need to track that. You need to track the market. But the biggest driver of demand is employment growth or lack thereof. And in this next article from Globe Street, you see office demand is growing, but H2 employment concerns loom. Now, this article was written today. I'm recording this on Thursday, the 22nd. So 4:24 a.m. Wow, Kristen Smithberg, you're on it here. 4:24 a.m. But this now takes into account this revision. Demand for office space has increased over the first half of the year, but remains below pre-pandemic levels, according to Savills Research Data Services State of the U.S. Office Market Report for the second quarter. So I don't know. In my experience working at JLL for 10 years, these reports are done well in advance. So I don't know if it takes into account this new revision that happened this week by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But office utilization continues to face challenges as hybrid work has become the new norm across industries and geographies. Miami and Manhattan, Miami and New York lead the country's return to office rates. Who doesn't want to come to the office, enjoy working with folks, and restaurants and Miamians and New Yorkers like to go out, and that's followed by Atlanta and Dallas. So Miami, Manhattan, Atlanta, Dallas, these major metropolitan folks want to come to the office, and I don't even think have to be mandated and forced. I think people like to get out, like to go to lunch, like to walk around, get out of the apartments or houses in these markets. Now, many companies have instituted stricter in-office expectations, but slowing employment growth could become a factor the rest of the year. Growth in office-using sector employment has slowed year over year, particularly in business and professional services, financial, manufacturing, and information. Despite this, office-using employment remains higher than before the pandemic. However, office availability continues to be elevated as sublease space is historically high. Central business district availability is currently 25.5%, up 1,140 basis points. That's about 11.4%. I don't know. I just can't stand this basis points. It makes you sound smarter, but basically it's up. It used to be 14%. Now it's 25.5% from pre-pandemic levels. Suburban office space increased at a slower pace, but is up 550 basis point or 5.5% from pre-pandemic levels to 24.8%. So it used to be at around 19%. Now it's close to 25%. So you have about a quarter of all office space, whether it's in downtown, central business district, or the suburban markets, is vacant. Who's going to fill it? It's these jobs. It's this employment growth. As companies expand, hire more people, they need more offices. They need more space. And we now found out that about 818,000 square feet was manufacturers made up. It's not here. It's not reliable. So it's going to take time and sustained leasing activities to substantially offset the amount of space returned to the market since the start of the pandemic. The report says leasing activity remains below pre-pandemic levels. Demand particularly focused on trophy offices with the best amenities. That's what we're seeing certainly in South Florida and so forth. So look, let's wrap it up there. But this jobs report revision impacts demand, and that impacts absorption of current space on the market, and that impacts future plans. There are REITs right now and institutions looking to buy office or thinking that we've hit rock bottom. Now's the time to get a hold of these great assets because the economy is growing. We've added 1 million new jobs, and let's go ahead and pull the trigger, and you become the number one bidder on a major account, and now you find out, oh, that didn't happen. So maybe we need to rethink our strategy. So let's see how this impacts commercial real estate long term. But it certainly does have a huge impact on commercial real estate. Job growth, demand for new housing, job growth, demand for new retail, job growth, demand for new office, and certainly warehousing. Everything functions off job growth. And now we've come to find out we've been living 2024 in a fairy tale. Largest correction since 2009, the Great Recession. So I don't know. I haven't seen anyone explain why there was such a overinflation in 2009, and I haven't seen anyone even ask the question right now. Why was there an overinflation the last year? And, one thing Congress is good at is getting people in front of them and yelling at them and questioning them and then going home and everybody go about their merry way. So maybe we'll get some shorts and some little video snippets of the leadership here, Dr. Erica McIntyre, Mr. William Witrusky, Henry Simpson, Julia Maxfield, and so forth, Jeffrey Hill, and Lucy Eldridge, Carrie Neal, and so forth. Maybe they'll be appearing the next week or two before Congress to explain how this possibly could have happened and the impact of this to commercial real estate. It's drastic. I can't overstate that, but we'll have to keep tracking that for you. Well, that's it for today. Listen, if you want to learn more about commercial real estate, let me give you a plug. There's a great book called Commercial Real Estate Office Leasing. You can visit don'tsignthelease.com/book. Find it on Amazon. Find it wherever you find. But if you buy it through my website, it helps the show out. Learn about commercial real estate office leasing from a tenant representation perspective. You're going to really get into the first part is a business owner and the decision to find office space, hiring a broker. You're going to learn how to answer 10 common questions in commercial real estate. Second part, you're going to learn pitfalls to avoid when signing a lease. So you want to help the show, pick up a copy. This is actually a special hard copy edition. You can also get it in soft cover. Thanks for tuning in. please check out this supply. Whoops, I almost gave you the answer. Check out what is the number one driver of office rents that go up and down, what to look for. And remember, Proverbs 2018 plans are established by counsel, by wise counsel wage war. Until we talk again, have a good day. Thanks for tuning in to this weekly look at commercial real estate. God bless.